Hi. Hey, good evening, everybody. Um, I know it's really late. It's 10:51 p.m. Alaska Standard Time. Alaska has its own time zone, by the way. And anyway, just wanted to come on here really quick, do a quick part two of the metaphysical movies, What Dreams May Come. And right now, I'd mostly like to talk about um, the author Richard Matheson, who wrote What Dreams May Come. I know, like the movie's very different from the book and everything, as Christina or as Christine and I had talked about, in the first one. And I just wanted to, take a moment to thank Christine very much for joining me for part one. That was my very first podcast, that I um, that I've done. Well, not the very first one I've been on, but the first one I've done on my own. And just wanted to just thank her for her collaboration on that first one, and I wanted to come on here and do a solo one to add a couple more things. And for those of you just joining, hi John. I think you're probably the only person that's on this live right now, or that's watching this live. And it says that there was one other person, but I don't know who that is. It just says one other is watching. But for those just joining, I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit more about Richard Matheson's work. And I haven't, besides what is it, What Dreams May Come, I haven't read like any of his books, like pretty much any of his books yet, but I have been going, I have been skimming through um his what is it called, his biography that they that, hold on, gotta pull this up. Okay, so the biography, let me pull it up here. Okay, it's called, and I've been skimming through this, so I'm still making my way through it. Hi John. And it looks like, okay, so it's called The Twilight Zone, the Twilight and Other Zones, The Dark Worlds of Richard Matheson. And this is basically a biography of Richard Matheson's work. And what I found really interesting, one of the passages that I came across, because as Christine and I were talking about in the very first podcast, Richard Matheson, was mostly known for doing horror at the very beginning of his career, and as he got older, I think, the 1970s, when he was about in his 40s, he was starting to get very, like, just, he's starting to, not, he lost that desire to write horror and everything. And part of it was because he was getting more into his into like spiritualism. I'm still, like I said, I'm still going through this book to, figure that, to see how exactly that happened. But I was going to read a quote to you guys in just a moment. Anyway, he actually wrote, it's so funny because I think Christine and I might have brought this up in the last, in part one, but Richard actually wrote an episode of this show called Trilogy of Terror. You guys have probably, for those of you who are baby boomers that might be watching this, if you've ever seen that trilogy, it's like a trilogy of short stories that Richard Matheson helped write. That was like one of those made-for-TV movies. The one that's most memorable to me was called, was Trilogy of Terror, He Who Kills. And basically this woman played by Karen Black I think she had ordered or bought this doll, and it was like this. It was called a Zuni fetish doll, and it was this little like tribal looking doll with sharp teeth. It looked terrifying. I don't know how she wasn't terrified of just, anyways, it was a really terrifying doll. And there was a chain that was wrapped around wrapped around its waist, and that chain ended up like breaking off or just falling off. And um when the chain is what kept it from coming alive. So once that chain accidentally fell off and she didn't notice, the doll came to life, and it started just like going on a rampage, just running around the apartment, and just was wreaking havoc. It was chasing her with a little tiny, like spear, and like trying to, stab her with it and all this stuff. Anyway, it was so over the top. It was so over the top. It was so funny because the doll was just like yelling like that, and just like was just like chasing her. And you've got to watch it. If any of you guys haven't seen it, you should at least watch it once. It's really, really funny. And anyway, Richard Matheson, I found out later, actually wrote that episode. And what's really funny, what's really interesting actually, was around the time. The reason I bring this up is because that was actually around the time. Um, yeah, it was around the time like he stopped, having a desire to write horror. And what was I gonna say? Um, it's late. Oh my gosh, I've got my tea here and everything. It's cooling down. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like that's when he started writing What Dreams May Come. He also wrote what was the book we were talking about? It was, what was that book called, John? You brought it up. It was Out of Time. Oh, you saw it. Yeah, it was. I mean, I saw it back in the '90s when I was a little kid. First, I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel, and that was something else. And then I had a sleepover with some friends, and we we rented that movie from Blockbuster, and it was just going all over the place. But I'm gonna be like typing on my computer here while I'm on this live. Let's see, Richard Matheson, time travel. What's that book called? No, there was one that's called Bid Time Return, but that's no, Somewhere in Time is what it's called. That was written in 1975. Yeah, the book might have been called Bid Time Return. The movie was Somewhere in Time. Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth, but maybe I took the words right out of your mouth. So, um, yeah, that's one I would like to watch the movie of, and also read the book. I have to, like, I connected so well with What Dreams May Come, because it was so connected with that spiritualism aspect. And I really liked that. And I'm really interested in like in time travel and everything. So that's going to be next on my list. But I wanted to read you guys a quote from that bibliography, The Twilight and Other Zones. Let's see. And this was around the time. This is the part of the book. And again, I found this. This is why I have to go back and read this book. But it kind of, the reason I bring this up, the whole reason I bring this up is because um it kind of mirrors like my journey as a creator and a writer and stuff. As somebody who's not yet published. Okay. One of the things that I really connected with here is the fact that because I used to be a huge horror film fan. Like there was one particular series there was one particular series that I really don't want to name here because it's yeah, it's just, let's just put it this way, it's part of the slasher genre, and it is very similar to um yeah, it's very similar to Trilogy of Terror. Let's just put it that way. Um yeah, I used to be a huge fan of that, of this horror film series. And then there was like a shift, I would say, that happened between I've had what I would call these they're like mini spiritual mini spiritual awakenings. And one of them started happening in around like 2015, 2016. And what was interesting is that I used to be see the whole reason I liked this series, and also the horror, like some horror series in general. I didn't, and again, I wasn't particularly a fan of the slasher genre at all. It was just this one specific series that I really liked, because of the actors that were a part of it. Mostly because the actors were a part of it, and because I liked the directors, the director writers, um, vision, and how they they really were. They took this series, and they it was mostly a campy series. Like, and I really love camp because I love films that go over the top. That are absurd. They go over the top. I'm really interested in that, and it's so funny because, yeah, the part I was going to say was that there was a shift in like 2015 and 2016 as I was getting more into spiritualism. Like I've always had an interest in in spiritual. I've always had an interest in spiritualism and metaphysics, and what was interesting is as I was learning more about energy, about vibration, um, and also about what I found to be uplifting or draining on me. And just as somebody who's really sensitive, like I was never, interested in like movies that were just like plain cruel, where there was, you know, people just killing each other. This is why I don't like the slasher genre. I really don't. Um, I'm more interested in like if I'm gonna watch horror, it's gonna be like a psychological thriller, or it's gonna be somewhere something like The Sixth Sense. Like I love The Sixth Sense. That is my one of my all time favorite movies. I also like I also love The Others, which was a very very fascinating ghost, kind of a ghost story with a twist to it. And there's another movie, if you haven't seen it, if you guys haven't seen it, it's called what is it called? It is called Personal Shopper. It has Kristen Stewart in there, and Kristen Stewart plays this young woman who is temporarily living in France. Her twin brother had passed away like a year before, and they had both made a pact. Both of them were mediums, so they were both like intuitives and mediums. And um, what was fun about that was what was interesting is that the movie starts off where, and her name, what was her name? Lewis was her brother's name. Lewis was her brother's name. Like I said, I'm going to be looking some of this up on here. Maureen, that was her name. So Maureen decided that anyways, she was at his house. She got dropped off by his ex-girlfriend who um was with her before he passed and everything. He had passed away of he had like a heart attack or something, which is really weird because I just felt ow, see, I had to crack my bone there. I just felt this like heaviness in my chest. But I'm also getting over a sinus infection, so there's that. Um, Anyways, so basically, it starts off with Maureen in the house, in her brother's house, that they're trying to sell, and she's trying to connect with her brother because they made a pact that if one of them goes first, the other's going to give them a sign, from the other side to show them that the other side is exists and everything, that they exist, that there's life beyond death. And yeah, the movie kind of takes kind of some it's very interesting because the way in which they show like the spirits and ghosts that they do show in the film, it's very accurate to what I've experienced personally, from what I've seen as far as energy and ghosts and everything. And yeah, it's a movie I highly recommend and everything. But back to what I was saying about Richard Matheson. um yeah, I wanted to read a quote. Let me see if I can find the place it started here. Let me see. I'm going back. Um, yeah, let's see. Okay, sorry, guys. Trying to find where this started. That would be a good place to start here. Huh. Okay, hold on. Aha. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's start here. Okay. Okay, so he says, person who wrote the biography that was interviewing Richard Matheson says, in December of 1973, Curtis asked me to come up with a plot for a third Kolchak movie of the week. Yeah, Kolchak movie of the week. I don't know if you know what Kolchak means. It's Kolchak. Maybe you know more about that, John. Um, yeah, third. Yeah. Anyways, and I supplied him with the Night Killers about robots replacing the government of Hawaii. Curtis called in Rich for the rewrite, and the network greenlighted the project for the immediate production. I was all set up to ship off for Hawaii, and Curtis and his crew to be on hand for any last minute script changes. When ABC decided to opt for weekly the Night Stalker series of 1 hour episodes, this killed our project, and we suddenly were out of the Kolchak business. By now, Matheson's 1971 horror novel had been filmed as The Legend of Hell House from a script he also wrote. When I saw it on screen, my first reaction was very negative, declared Matheson. In fact, I actually hated it. Having seen it a couple of times since, I've modified my opinion. I guess it's really not so bad, but one personal change emerged from the whole experience. I no longer wanted to write horror. When I got a chance to work on a totally different kind of project, I grabbed it. This new project was movie of the week drama for television the morning after its theme was alcoholism. Rich generated a powerful script that received high critical praise, but a new Curtis Matheson version of Dracula put Matheson right back on the horror shelf. And the same team, and this is where, Trilogy of Terror comes in, and the same team was responsible for yet another classic in the fright genre. The fright genre, that's a good way of putting it, telecast early in 1975 based on three of Matheson's earlier short stories. Okay, so he also wrote the short stories for the book. Um, Again, I was called in by Curtis to write the first two short teleplays for the show. However, Rich wisely saved the plum for himself. Uh, excuse me, scripting the final tale of a hideous needle fanged devil doll who chases Karen Black's character around her apartment, viciously slashing at her with a kitchen knife. The ending, in which the woman is consumed by the creature and literally becomes the killer doll, is vivid, shocking, and unforgettable. Yeah, and if you've seen the ending of that episode, you've seen the ending of that short movie, that you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like I said, over the top, right? Okay. Whether he liked it or not, Richard Matheson was firmly entrenched in the industry as a horror writer. I was determined to fight against this image. This is really what I wanted to share here. I was determined to fight against this image, said Rich. Damn it, I never wrote real horror to begin with. To me, horror connotes blood and guts, while terror is much more subtle art, a matter of stirring up primal fears. But by the mid '70s, I had tired of playing the fright game. Scaring the hell out of people no longer appealed to me, which I find very fascinating. That he started off as a horror film writer, and not horror film writer. He did write horror films and scripts and everything, but he also was known for his books. As proof of his desire to break new ground, his romance novel Bid Time Return, which you were talking about, John, and let me see what you have to say. You said, "Hell yeah, watched them when they were on. Those were awesome." Kolchak, The Night Stalker. I promise you, if you're 10 in 1975, it's scary. Yeah, no, I was about that age when I watched that. When I rented Trilogy of Terror from Blockbuster. Oh my god, that was pretty insane. it was pretty funny though, because it was like not even, it wasn't really even scary. I mean, it was scary. It was like terrifying, but it was more funny the way that you have to laugh at that stuff too. It's just so funny. Mm. So, okay. So he said, I had tired of playing the fright game, scaring the hell out of people no longer appealed to me. As proof of his desire to break new ground, his romance novel, Bedtime Return, was published at this time, and he had embarked on his next book, a novelistic study of life after death, a metaphysical work he called What Dreams May Come. It boldly explored the world of reincarnation. Matheson has clearly stated his views on this subject. I should have started here. God. Oh, here's my cat, Zuko. Zuko, come here. Okay, he doesn't want to go on camera. um, Masson had clearly stated his views on the subject. I believe that every human being is surrounded by some bioenergy field and what they refer to as the aura, which is scientifically proven. That creates psychic phenomena can affect healing and is responsible for telepathy, telekinesis, and precognition. The field is connected to the body during our lifetime, disconnects itself at death, and is eternal. Very true. Our body is just the vehicle it uses during this particular phase of its existence, and then it comes back and attaches itself to another vehicle, which is, of course, reincarnation. There is an overall meaning to everyone's existence, which is this constant cycle of living, dying, returning. We are headed somewhere back to where we came from initially, when we were perfect in the very real sense. That's really cool. I like that. And he says, What Dreams May Come was published in 1978 to a decidedly mixed reaction. Many critics and readers expressed anger at Matheson's diversion from the horror genre. And of course, I mean, you can't please everybody, right? And I fully support that he did this. I think that's amazing, because it really shows. I think that Matheson had his own spiritual awakening. I find that fascinating. Which is why I need to go through this entire book. It's been a long time. I've skimmed through it, but it has been a long time. So, but this always stuck with me. This quote in this book always stuck with me. And he says, what do you say? Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. And he says, while others responded with warmth and gratitude for the mental comfort the novel gave them, Matheson's intense devotion to his family has given his life a rare stability, and he expressed his deep feelings excuse me, for Ruth and his children and What Dreams May Come. The book is openly autobiographical, which that's pretty awesome. I was still doing some darker fantasy work for television, stated Matheson, stuff like Dead of Night, The Strange Possession of Mrs. Oliver, and my heart wasn't in it. I was totally absorbed with the filming of Bedtime Return, retitled Somewhere in Time, and I even had a bit part in the picture. Like I said, I have to watch this movie. I have not watched the movie yet. Acting was natural to Matheson. For some years, he'd been involved with a local drama group, the Hidden Hills Players, in which he performed in a variety of stage roles. Anyway, yeah, just wanted to share that quote, because that means something to me, and it also, like I said, it reflects my journey of having been a horror fan of movies and books and all that stuff, and then but always having that foundation of spiritualism, of having the interest, and just the knowing that that was where my path was going to take me, to spiritualism and everything. Now, as far as like, I think what I was drawn to most of all when I was it's my laundry. I'll get that later. What I was mostly drawn to when it came to what was I saying? Oh my gosh. My mind's erasing what I said. Um anyway, what I was mostly drawn to, I think, when it came to like horror and everything, I think was more so like to observe like the darkness and everything, and not because like anything violent. I mean, I never liked violence. Like I said, never liked violence, never liked any of that stuff. I was always drawn to the more psychological, like thriller, psychological thriller, and more of like the ghostly kind of you know the scarier elements when it came to like Poltergeist. Poltergeist is one of my favorite films. So yeah, those were a few different ones. There's The Sixth Sense, Poltergeist, the others. um, there's been a ton of different, different ones and everything. But oh yeah, Stephen King's It would probably be the exception for, like as far as like killer or monster goes and everything, because what really drew me to that, and I will definitely be doing a podcast on Stephen King's It, is that bond that the Lucky Seven, that Lucky Seven slash Losers Club shared. I thought that that was just really, an amazing story. And the book is just, I mean, book is of course, a little bit different and everything. I mean, obviously all these books compared to their movie counterparts, there's going to be there's obviously, you can't avoid, there's going to be differences and everything. There's not, you can't put everything that was in the book into a movie either, because you know budget concerns and all that stuff, or at least that's how it's been in the industry for, for 100 years at least. I mean, that might change. Sorry, my throat's a little bit dry. But I also wanted to bring up, what did I want to talk? I need to get used to talking in front of a camera. um I'm not used to it, as you can see. Yeah, I know that these first few podcasts, like, I don't want to say they're going to suck or something like that, but I have to get used to speaking in front of people and everything. It's yeah. And also I think I'm in my head a lot, so sometimes I forget. I don't know. I forget sometimes exactly what I'm talking about, like when I'm talking about it. I mean, that's why I usually come to these podcasts with having like an agenda or something. This one I'm kind of just winging. So anyway, so having said that about Richard Matheson, I wanted to get back to um, what dreams may come, and how in the movie. Oh, let's see. What did John say? Quote from Matheson: "Somewhere in time is a story of a love which transcends time. What dreams may come is a story of love which transcends death." Yes, I feel that they represent the best writing I have done in the novel form. I love that. I love that. And you know what? That's that was just an amazing transformation. It's interesting because space, time, death, the afterlife, they're all places of transition, right? And what I find fascinating about that, excuse me, is that like, at least for Richard Matheson, this was a time of transition in his life. This was a time of, ending the death and the ending of his his work as a horror writer. And, because that's what he was known for, obviously. And then this transition going into, I don't even know if you would call it, excuse me, a spiritual, metaphysical fantasy. I would say, leaning more into sci-fi, fantasy, metaphysics, all of that stuff. I feel that he made that transition, and I find that fascinating. And yeah, like, yeah, it's there's just no words, there's almost no words for it. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun that he did that. And it's, hold on, Zuko, my cat, is like wanting to go outside, but it is 11 o'clock at night and he's not going to go outside. Zuko, come here. I want to introduce you. Can you come here? Good boy. So this is my cat. This is Zuko. This is Zuko. Say hi, Zuko. Say hi. Want to say hi, buddy? He might come on from time to time on a live or maybe on a podcast. I'll have to get him his a little microphone or something. Can just clip it to his fur. You want to go? Okay. Okay. He doesn't want me to hold him right now. What was I saying? Yeah. So Richard Matheson went from horror writer, fantasy writer. and it was a time of transition. So yeah, like I said, I find that fascinating. And yeah, Zuko's cute. He's very cute. He's out. He's somewhere over there now. I have another cat, Teddy. Teddy's a Maine Coon. I think that Zuko is also like part Maine Coon, and yeah, Zuko's pretty big. I think he's big for a cat his age. He's 3 years old, and anyway, Teddy's about 2 years old. No, Teddy's not 2 years. Teddy's 13 years old. What am I thinking? No, yeah, no. Teddy's going to be 13 in April, and Zuko's going to be, yeah, Zuko's actually going to be 3 years old in May. So anyway, those are my cats. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'm probably going to cut this a little short. I went back and I watched the movie again, What Dreams May Come, after doing the initial podcast, and what I found interesting is something that Annie had said. And it was in a couple of scenes. So there was the scene where, Ian was telling his father, as he was making his entrance into hell, he said to him, and I think we probably quoted this in the last podcast, but he said something along the lines of, Zuko, stop. Zuko, you can't go outside. No. Anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, I think, okay, so Ian, the son, had said to Chris, because like they were trying to find a connection, like a way to bring Anne back, right? And so he said to him, when he couldn't go with him into hell, he said, or into hell, quote unquote, he said to him, when you find mom, you bring her back. And he says, remember, hold on 1 second. Stop it. Stop. No. Gotta put you in timeout. Anyways, he said something along the lines of, think about what happened after we died. Think about like what you said to bring her back, and use that. And yeah, and so there was the next scene. They showed the flashback of Chris and Annie, and he was talking about how he couldn't join her. He was talking to her about possibly getting a divorce, and she didn't want him to go. And there was a quote that she said, which was basically, when you win, you lose, right? And when I was doing the tarot reading, about the lesson to take from the story, and I was getting the 10 of Pentacles. What was it? The 10 of Pentacles, the 2 of Swords, I think the Ace of Wands. Yeah, it was the 10 of Pentacles, the Ace of Wands, which symbolized, the ascent, that the ascent and the abundance that Chris found himself in at the very beginning of What Dreams May Come in the movie. And then started to realize that there was a whole other side to the afterlife, with the 2 of Swords, representing not only Annie's denial and her, having fallen so far into that abyss, but the next card after that was the 10 of Swords, which is endings. But then also what I picked up from that, just to recap what I picked up from that, doing the tarot reading on it, was that, anyways, what I picked up from that was that it's almost like a cycle. It can start like high, or it can start low, and then it goes like, it's almost like there was a loop, because it was like at the very beginning you had the excuse me, you had the 10 of Pentacles, and then you ended with a 10 of Swords. So 10 of Swords is like the ending, and it was almost as if Chris was willing to blink out of existence to join Annie, rather than rather than like, try to reach her and, kind of have her ascend up, he had to go down to the depths, and then, which catapulted both of them back up, which I found really fascinating. And then there was, so after Chris decided to join her, and my cat is going on a rampage. He's like, I think he's like dumping the trash can in the bathroom or something, but I'll deal with that later. Anyway, yeah, anyway, so Chris falling so far, to the bottom in order to, to join Annie, and then that catapulted them both back up, to the, to the higher realms. Something that Annie said after that was, when you lose, you win. So I feel like the point I'm making is that tarot spread I did, in the last podcast, that was very, very much reminiscent of that quote. When you lose, you win. When you win, you lose. Or when you lose, when you win, you lose. When you lose, you win. So it was almost like, these two extremes or whatever. And these, obviously these two characters going on this beautiful, yet frightening, yet exhilarating journey. So anyway, I think I'm gonna end it here, and probably gonna do either The Sixth Sense, or you know what, maybe I might do, like, when I see the movie Somewhere in Time, I'll definitely do a podcast on that one. For now, I'm probably gonna do the next film that I look at is probably gonna be The Sixth Sense, or if any of you guys have any suggestions, for those of you who have made it this far in the live or the podcast, or the replay of this, yeah, leave me a comment or a DM, or just you can, yeah, or you can, I think, email me, for those of you that are subscribed to my email list, with any of your suggestions on any type of movies you want me to do a podcast on, or you want me to do a tarot reading or a oracle reading on, because I am completely open to both of those. So just let me know what you let me know what you guys think. I'm open to suggestions, and anyway, I hope you guys have a good night, and thank you, John, for being the sole person to show up. I did not expect pretty much anybody to be on this late. I mean, it's what, 3:30 in the morning, almost 3:30 in the morning in New York City. I used to live in New York City, by the way. I lived in Astoria, Queens for about sorry, for about 9 months, and then for 8 months I lived in Jackson Heights. But I am originally from, and I live in Anchorage, Alaska. I have that lingering cough from the sinus infection that I had last week. So excuse me. Anyway, yeah, so thank you for coming on so late. Yeah, it's about almost pretty much 11:30 here, so I'm going to cut that short, and you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.